It's very, very easy to get a first order, but it's very difficult to get a second order. If you do not give them products and services that they trust on time, with the quality that they deserve and desire, and the price that you can negotiate with them, they will not come back, because there are other people who can do the same thing we do. But we are sophisticated in what we do. We have unbelievable equipment, unbelievably skilled people, and we do good for our customers, and they keep coming back.
A quick interruption to remind you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better. Hey, it's Ari Santiago. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Made in America podcast. We have a really great guest on today, Selim Noujaim from Noujaim Tool. I am so happy to have you on, Selim. It's taken us a while to get here, but now we're here. Are you ready?
Well, good morning, sir. Of course I am ready.
Nice.
And early this morning, I have been on WATR radio in Waterbury, just promoting this podcast and saying, we are here to really promote manufacturing and promote Connecticut.
There we go. That's exactly what we're going to do. But it's the Made in America podcast. So we always start off with the same two questions, Selim. What do you make and why do you make it?
Well, we are tool and die makers. We are a manufacturing company. And basically, we don't have an inventory, we don't have a stock room, we don't carry anything. We have customers all over the United States. If they order one piece, we make one piece. If they order 1,000, we make 1,000. And the thing about it is, we are not designer at Noujaim Tool Company. We do not design. We just go by what the customer wants us to do. They bring us their blueprints, we produce to their blueprints, we inspect to their prints, and we ship. Once they receive it, and in all likelihood, many times our customers, because they have been repeat customers, they never inspect the parts. They immediately take them to production. But once they approve them, then essentially we have no liability. Because we are producing to them. So whatever we make, we produce to them. And quite honestly, this year, with this pandemic, it has been a very busy year, for the simple reason that we have been blessed to be connected with several medical manufacturers. And we've been producing for them all the time. As a matter of fact, we are busier now than we have ever been busy since we started this company back in 1985.
Well, listen, that's a great transition. I definitely want to talk about sort of the medical device component, what you guys are doing. We're going to get into workforce. We're going to talk about your long history. The audience needs to know that you talk about community engagement. You've been really engaged in the community on a number of levels. I want to get into all that because it's so critical. But you talked about starting in 1985. Can we get the history, Selim? How did you get to Noujaim Tool? How did you get into manufacturing?
Well, basically, I was blessed to come to this country in 1971. When I lived in Lebanon, I was born, grew up in Lebanon, and I was about to begin law school. I came to visit the United States to see people. Basically, 6 years earlier, at the baggage claim area of Beirut International Airport, by coincidence, I met a young 16-year-old who was coming to Lebanon to visit her family, her extended family. So I met her, we saw her a couple times, and it is funny how things work out. I approached her, she's been so beautiful. I spoke to her in Arabic, and she spoke a language that I did not understand. So I smiled and I started to walk away, and she said something in French. I turned back. I am fluent in French. Turned out that she's fluent in French. She is a Waterbury, Connecticut born. So we spoke, and then we kept communicating. Fast forward 6 years later, I am here in this country to visit only for a period of 2 weeks. And when we decided to get married, then I was going to stay here. I started working a textile mill in Waterbury called Fleischer Finishing. 1 week later, it was not for me. I decided that I need to go back to school and learn the language. So thank God She took me by the hand to what was then post-junior college. And the dean looked at her and said, he will never make it, he can't speak English. But the director of admissions had the wisdom to say, I think I see potentials in his eye. I think this guy is going to make it. So I graduated from post-junior college, Central Connecticut State University, 2 master's degree and a doctorate later. Thank God I'm doing okay.
You made it all right.
Okay. So as I started to work, I became involved with a educational organization called APEX, American Production and Inventory Control Society. And the reason for which I became involved in it is because my boss wanted to run for president of the Hartford County chapter. He handed me an application. He says, fill it out. At the time, I was working for Timex. Takes a licking and keeps on going.
Yeah, that's right.
So I filled out the application. I became involved in APEX. 6 years later, in 1977, I brought my brother Joe to this country. Love him. My brother Joe said to me, I'm a tool maker. I know nothing about tool making. He's an engineer by education, tool maker by trade. So I took him and I knocked at the door of a company in Waterbury called Soma Tool Company, SOMMA. And basically, because it says tool company, I figured he says he's a tool maker, tool company. So God bless them, the 2 owners opened the door, took us to the shop, and they said, ask him if he knows how to run this machine. It was a big, huge lathe. And my brother said, I can take it apart and put it back in 3 days. I told them, they hired him. And God bless him, to his credit, my brother Joe kept bugging me and saying to me, why don't we start our own business? And he did. There was a Bargain News. There was a magazine called Bargain News. Free, they used to throw it and put it at the tables in the offices. He found a machine in Prospect. He and I went up, got the cobweb of the machines, cleaned it, paid $3,200, put it in my mother-in-law's garage, and connected power to it. By then, people started to know me, and I started going to APEX meetings, started to know people. And there was a company at the time in Waterbury called Airpax, AIRPAX. It was in Cheshire.
Mm-hmm.
And I met a gentleman, God rest his soul, Larry LeBlanc. I went to him, I said, we have a machine in my mother-in-law's garage. Can you ask me to quote something? He handed me a stack of prints and he said, here, tell your brother to make them. But I didn't know what A2 and D and D2 and 4140. And I came back to him. I said, Larry, what's all of this? He said, don't worry, I'll cut up the material for you. We took the parts. My brother made them. I brought them back to them. And then all of a sudden, they clamored around me in his office, started looking at the parts that my brother made. And after everybody left, he said to me, you know why when you walked in, I had all the prints sitting at my desk? I said, yeah, Larry, why? He said, because I can't find anybody to make them. Here's another stack of prints. Go make those for me. Didn't even ask me how much. When you bring them in, just tell me how much do you want. And that's how Noujaim Tool Company started.
Get out of town.
That's how Noujaim Tool Company started. Meanwhile, the company was small. I could not afford to be at the company, and the company could not afford me. So I started working for other companies, one of them making MRI machines. I was making MRI machines. And then we got into a point when I said to my brother Joe, I said, you know, God bless us. I said, I have had enough of the corporate world. Let's join forces now and triple the size of the company. And that's exactly what we did. So, and that's how Noujaim Tool Company is, thank God, so successful. We are extremely successful. And our bread and butter is the apprenticeship training program. We can talk about that. I have customers in Hastings, Michigan, DeLand, Florida, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and the list goes on.
How did you, when did you go full-time in the business?
1994.
1994. So between 1985 and 94, you were part-timing it?
But yeah, part-time in it, yes, as a volunteer.
Part-timing, not even paid.
And I was the salesman.
Right.
You know, God bless my brother. I love him dearly. But I tell you something, I say it all the time. Without my brother Joe, we could never have a business, because I'm not a tool maker. I don't know how to make them. I don't know how to turn a machine on and off. So basically, my brother Joe is the bread and butter of the business. He is the engineer who makes things happen. And I'm proud of him for that. And now my nephew George, who is also my godson,
Yeah.
is going essentially to be the future of the business. So we have our succession planning in place.
That's such a great success story,
Exactly.
Selim. So let's just talk a little bit about how did you build the business initially? You're out there trying to find customers. Everyone's always looking for customers. How did you go and find customers then? And how does that compare to how you guys find customers now?
Well, in all honesty, I give Apex, the American Production and Inventory Control Society, a great deal of credit. I grew up with Apex, and Apex grew up with me. And I ended up being vice president of the New England region. 2 years later, I became secretary treasurer of the entire organization. And then I progressed to become president-elect and then president of the organization. And quite honestly, during my conference, we had a conference in Orlando, Florida, attended by 7,900 people. I had 120,000 square foot of exposition place to put products and services. And we have customers from all over the world coming in. And Apex is an international organization. We had 72,000 members at the time. Now things have changed dramatically in the organization. But because of Apex, I got to know people. And people say to me, how many salesmen do you have on the road? We have no salesmen. We don't. We have no sales force on the road. We have no marketing. It's just us.
Even to this day.
Even to this day.
So you're saying just through that initial Apex networking,
And
that's how
people.
that's how you got the word out.
But you know what I always say? It's very, very easy to get a first order, but it's very difficult to get a second order. If you do not give them products and services that they trust on time, with the quality that they deserve and desire, and the price that you can negotiate with them, they will not come back, because there are other people who can do the same thing we do. But we are sophisticated in what we do. We have unbelievable equipment, unbelievably skilled people, and we do good for our customers, and they keep coming back. And one time, in all honesty, I was going to Orlando with my family to Disney World. I said, geez, as long as I am here, maybe I'll go up to DeLand, Florida, visit my customer, medical company, by the way, say hello to them, introduce so they can see my face. And I tried to map it, 210 miles. I said, I ain't going. But you know something, the relationship that we have with our customers are unbelievable. We have a customer in France, and they had one day, a very warm day. I took a picture of myself in front of big bundles of snow. I well dressed with hat and gloves and everything. I sent it to them. I said, I'm freezing. Send me some orders so I can keep busy. And it worked. I do the same thing with my customers in Florida. I take a picture of myself in the wintertime. I said, don't you feel sorry for me? I did, and it works. And the bottom line is the relationship that you have with your customers. And thank God they keep coming back to us. I mean, the first customer that came to us, Airpacks, back in 1985, they changed names, and we still do little work for them. They are much smaller than they are now, but they changed names. And I'll give you an unbelievable example. At one time, there was a company in Waterbury, Connecticut called Sherwood Medical. They sold their business to Tyco Electronics. We got work from Tyco Electronics. They sold a portion of that business to Medtronics. We got work from them. And then they sold that business to Cardinal Health in DeLand, Florida.
And still working for them
we're doing
today.
Business for them. And I still, to this day, we get prints from DeLand, Florida that say on the print, Sherwood Medical's Waterbury, Connecticut. Do you believe that? But you know something? I have no shame. I have no shame.
No, but so but you say you don't do any marketing and you say you don't do any sales, but you do plenty of marketing and you do plenty of sales. Just comes naturally to you.
Well, would you like something?
Yeah.
Well, I have no shame.
Yeah.
So my morning run on a Saturday morning takes me before St. Mary's Hospital. Thank God I am blessed to be on the board of St. Mary's Hospital Foundation. As we were running, a truck that says Cardinal Health on it was pulling in to deliver products. I took a picture of the truck, and Monday morning, I sent it to my customers, and I said, here is your products being delivered to Waterbury, Connecticut, to my own hospital. And that went viral throughout the entire Cardinal Health organization. They loved it.
Of course they
And
love
that's
it.
how you get customers, by being true to them, by being honest with them, and by continuing the relationship with no agendas, quite honestly.
Listen, I think that's a really great lesson. And how are you going to pass that on? How are you going to get that DNA to continue into the future?
Well, we truly have a great team. And the apprenticeship training program that we got connected with the Department of Labor in the state of Connecticut has been our bread and butter. In 1988, Melvin Santiago was
Melvin Santiago, no relation,
no
but
relation to Ari Santiago, but Melvin Santiago was our first apprentice. 1988, still with the company. I love him, most faithful, and I am willing to turn the key over to Melvin Santiago and go away for 2 months. You come back, the family comes back, and the business is better than when we left it, because he cares so much about the business. Our 1991 apprentice, Sean, is now our operations manager. Our 2007 apprentice, Nicholas, now runs our wire room operations. All in all, we received from the state of Connecticut a congratulation letters, because this year we graduated our 15th. Now, look at something. These are 15 people that if we did not put them through the apprenticeship training program in conjunction with the state of Connecticut, I don't know where they would have been. Most of them they come from inner city. Most of them are from inner city Waterbury. And God bless them. They are making good money. They have a great insurance. They have great benefits. Back in 1997, we started a simplified IRA program. We have employees of Noujaim Tool Company who have 6 figures in their simplified IRA program. And that's how we build a family. We are known as a family company. And obviously, the tool making business is getting older. Unless you invest in the new people, train them, and we don't just take them and throw them on a machine and say, here, run the machine. What we do is every apprentice is teamed up and mentored by a journeyman. And the journeyman, who quite honestly is making some good money and having great benefits, and the journeyman will teach them the trade. And that's how they become skilled, and they go out to restaurants and spend money. They buy homes, and they spread money into the community.
listen, let's just rewind on that, because I think that's a really, you just did a great job, Selim, kind of going over how you executed the apprenticeship program and how it's been successful. And I want to dig into it just a little bit. So when you guys think about bringing an apprentice on, how do you set them up for success before they even start? I mean, you talked about mentorship, the importance of it. How do you think of it? And maybe help people in the audience who don't know how to get started. How do they start? And people who have maybe tried it in the past but didn't give it the proper setup to be successful, what could they do to make it successful in the future?
Kaner Vocational Technical School, which is about only 3 miles from Noujaim Tool Company.
Which one?
Kaner.
Kaner, yep.
Kaner in Waterbury.
Yep.
We bring them in when they are freshmen in the machine tool program. They call it precision machining. They come in to visit us when they are freshmen, and we give them a tour. We just buy them donuts and orange juice, and we give them a tour. And what we do is, we don't have the journeyman give them the tour. We will have the young people give them the tour. The apprentices give the tour to the freshmen. And they give them a tour. They show them the place and everything. And basically, when that happens, and when we are telling them about the company, I kind of look to see who's really most interested. And many, many times, some of the students who are freshmen will come up to either to me or to my brother or to my nephew, and they say, geez, one of these days I'd like to work here. What I say to them, give me your name, take their name, and they say, when you get to be 16, call me. And that's how we get them in, because we see the potential in their eyes. We see who wants to work. and who wants to learn and who wants to improve themselves and be an asset to our society. And so we continue discussing with them. I am at Gaynor Tech almost every week. They ask us to do scholarship, to speak to the students, to speak to the teachers, and we do that all the time. And this is how we remain connected. But the most important factor also is our partnership at the Department of Labor. Look, Governor Malloy, I give him lots of credit. He was very instrumental in promoting the apprenticeship training program. And I am a person who gives the credit where the credit is due. And he improved it, and we are really doing very well with it. Otherwise, the size of Noujaim Tool Company will be half of what it is now, and only with Asian workers. We have an unbelievable mix of older people who are the true journeymen, and the young guys who are really coming into the trade and doing very well. But we lost two people throughout this entire process. One of them came to me and said, you know, Selim, I would like to become a police officer. I marched down to the chief of police's office. I said to him, you'll be a moron if you don't take this. So now he's a police officer in the city of Waterbury, and another person wanted to be a firefighter. So we recommended him, and I wrote a letter to the fire chief in Waterbury, and he became a firefighter. So the trait of leadership is to help people improve rather than push them back.
Hold them back. Listen, there's so much to unpack there, but I want to spike out a couple really important points that you talked about that I want to make sure people pick up on. First of all, understanding that our workforce and continued growth in the workforce and the rejuvenation of the workforce is critical, but it isn't something that we're going to be successful at just throwing an ad in Indeed or, God forbid, in the newspaper and hoping people show up. It's something that if the business is serious about, people have to invest their time in. And you've just talked about going to the trade school and speaking. You talked about how this very smart idea of having the tour be given by someone that the young person getting the tour can really connect to. Very smart little twist there. But you don't just let them tour with the young person all by themselves. The leaders of the business are there. Mm-hmm. And so someone could see a vision of from the beginning all the way to the top that people really care. I'm sure that that's super helpful. And it gives you a chance, as you mentioned, to see who's engaged in the tour, who's really, really interested, and they have an opportunity to come to you and say, what can I do to work here, and start that whole process, really smart. Can you talk to me a little bit about once you get them into the apprenticeship program, how do you set them up for a mentor inside of Noujaim Tool so that they can learn and be successful? Because no one's going to start off their career knowing even the basics of how to show up to work on time, how to engage, and what have you. How do you set up the mentorship?
Well, most importantly is to contact the Department of Labor. We call the Department of Labor. They have an unbelievably responsive staff. They come to us. They bring the booklet, they bring in the application, and they will ask if the student is under 18, a parent must be there to sign the paperwork. So we put them on the pre-apprenticeship program. So the Department of Labor comes, and then the family comes, and then the student come, and they sign the paperwork, and then we don't stop them from going to school. We work with the school to see when they come to work and when they have to be in class, when they have to be trained in their equipment, when they come to be trained in our equipment. So we have the continuous relationship with the school, with the vocational technical school, quite honestly. And we do that, and they are pre-apprentice. Once they graduate from the vocational technical school as a high school degree, then we take them on as full-time apprentice. They have to put in 8,000 hours of work, and it is very much strictly looked upon. They have a booklet, and the mentor must sign their booklet every week to say that's what we did. We don't throw them into one machine and leave them there. We take them from one work center to work center to work center to work center, from one cell to one cell to one cell. So this way they will be cross-trained on all of the cells. And that's how we groom them, and that's how they learn. And quite honestly, everything is under the watchful eyes of my brother Joseph, and now under the watchful eyes of my nephew George. George has become very, very smart in the business. He started coming into work when he was 6 years old. And thank God we are so well known in the community and people come back to us.
Yeah, listen, I just think it's so important, and so many other businesses could learn just so much from this concept of the apprenticeship program and how they can help make their workforce rejuvenated, like we talked about. So let's talk about what else you guys are doing in the workforce. What else are you engaged in, Selim, to help trying to drive workforce development in Connecticut?
Well, one thing that is very important, you have to be involved in the community. That's very important. So I've been very lucky. I was appointed as one of 5 champions, which is called the Next Generation Manufacturing. And each one of us went out and had to recruit 5 people. So it became like like it just flourished. So each one of us brought in 5 people into the mix. And I do have, quite honestly, some information. And this is under the leadership of the Northwest Regional Workforce Investment Board. And then we meet and we have a great deal of mission to do. And the leader of the board made sure that I will read this statement as she has it written. This unique partnership sees the industry leaders at the main table, developing and driving their own agenda and action items with the support of the core team consisting of workforce and economic development representatives, along with education and training representatives. The core team has its mission in supporting the agenda of the industry partners. And here is the agenda. I put together some notes on what the agenda is. And that's what we are very, very strong in the Greater Waterbury area doing. Identify any successful local efforts to raise youth awareness, attracts unemployed and underemployed talent to manufacturing, recruit talent from outside the Northwestern Connecticut region, identify elements of a potential regional talent's image and marketing campaign. These could include target audience, content, delivery mechanism, like social media, logistical assistance requirements, and budget partners. Identify manufacturing-related education programs, how important it is.
Very.
That are currently being offered in local high schools and colleges, and or what age groups are currently being targeted for manufacturing careers, and identify any local and outside models of business education collaboration that the region might want to emulate or expand. We are learning from Colorado because they do have a program like this in Colorado and any other states, and they kind of like communicate with us and they send us their model. So based on this, we have those 5 champions under the direction of the executive director, and we go out and we bring in more people because manufacturing is very important. People say that Connecticut has skilled workforce. I may make some people mad at me when I say, no, we are not rich in skilled workforce. Our workforce is aging. The technical aspect of what people know is being outdated, and they're not learning the new concepts, the new technologies, the new equipments, the new machineries. They're not learning them. The older workforce is getting older and staying the same way they used to want to do things 20 years ago. We need to bring it to a different level. And we need to engage the youth and continue to educate. And even educate the older folks too. People like me, for that matter.
Listen, I think your point about we need to get the youth engaged is 100% right. I mean, it's always going to be the generation coming up that's going to push for change, right? When we were the younger generation looking up, we all thought our parents were old fuddy-duddies that didn't get it, right? And now we're the old fuddy-duddies and other people are going to push behind. I think you're 100% right. We need to get young people engaged. That's going to be the key, because I will push back to you on this. I think Connecticut has the infrastructure. We've got the technical schools. We've got the commitment from the community colleges to help get these people trained up. We need to get the people interested, and we got to have the capacity to train them. And I think we can make that work.
We can. There's a disconnect. And I see the disconnect. We have the great education, and at the same time, you have the manufacturing folks, and you have to put them together. And that's the idea. Look, you know how I was able to do all of this? I became a legislator, and I saw things that needed to be done. And I said, okay, how can I bring in more people? So got engaged. And then Kaynor was very run down. They were going to close Kaynor's vocational technical school. It was very run down. Now, the legislators, including yours truly, lobbied for $62 million. And Kaynor has become a state-of-the-art school.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing wonderful. And I know the state of Connecticut has put a lot into other community colleges, and I give credit to the committees and the boards who have done that. Waterbury has done a wonderful. We have a new career academy in Waterbury, the Nogatok Valley Community College program for precision machining.
Absolutely.
And the list goes on. So we're doing all of this. What is still missing a bit is just to connect them together. And that's what we need to do.
Connect the facilities together, or connect the people to know what's there. So listen, I mean, anyone that knows you and anyone that's listened to this podcast for a long time knows you're a good communicator. You're certainly not shy of talking. So with that kind of background, what do you see as the way we can get people engaged in these great manufacturing careers? How can we create more Selim Noujaims and Joe Noujaims from the people that are here in Connecticut, and other people to come in and learn the trades and build the next companies?
Well, allow me to speak humbly, okay, and please don't judge me. But this is the honest truth, and you have known me already this past few minutes. I was the only manufacturer in the Connecticut General Assembly. Unfortunately, most legislators did not understand my language. Mm-hmm. When I introduced bills about research and development tax credit, or as we're talking about this, apprenticeship tax
program,
credit.
yeah, sure, Manufacturing Innovation Fund, yep. So you introduced those programs, and what? The people don't understand the value.
I had to explain them.
Yeah.
I had to explain what they are and the value of them. As a matter of fact, we are still fighting two bills right now that have essentially, unfortunately, died in the Connecticut General Assembly. Look, Noujaim Tool Company at one time was a C corporation. We were getting tax credits when employing apprenticeship training programs and bringing the apprentices. We were getting credits for the apprentices coming in from our taxes. Mm-hmm. But pass-through entities were not allowed to do it. They would not give tax credit. The state of Connecticut would not give tax credits to pass-through entities. So when I introduced this bill back several years ago in the Connecticut General Assembly, they said to me when we had the debate on the floor of the House, but pass-through entities, the owner takes the money and takes the money home. I said, yes, it could happen. But there are some other matters. If you do not reinvest in equipment and the people and talents and education, you're going to be, within a year or two or three, you're going to be done. You're going to be outdated. So you need to buy equipment. And you need to make sure you take care of your people, the people who work for you, in order for them to stay with you. And when you have some bad years, like 2008 and 2009, when the economy fell apart, many businesses lost money. And that pass-through entity owner is going to have to keep his or her place open. They have to take money from their own pocket to put it into the business. So I introduced a bill, and the first year, the bill would not go through. It died because they said there is a fiscal note on it of $1 million cost to the state of Connecticut. I asked, please explain to me from the staff lawyer who supposedly said there is a fiscal note of $1 million. I said, please explain to me, how did you come up with this expense on this bill? He said, oh, I took a guess. Well, a guess is not good enough. No. What I did on the floor of the House and debated on the floor of the House is what is the cost of not doing it versus the cost of doing it? Because once you bring people and you hire them, you pay them, you give them benefit, you give them insurance. Once you give them insurance, the state of Connecticut does not have to give them insurance, so you save money. They are working, so they're not unemployed. State of Connecticut saves money on unemployment cost, and the list goes on. And those people will go out and spend money, so they put wealth into the economy, and Connecticut is making money. So that was my debate. That's exactly what I said on the floor. It's exactly what I said on the floor.
And the result?
And the result is it passed. But what they did is they modified it to say, okay, what we'll do is we'll give them the credit, but they will have to distribute it as contributions to charities or to hospitals, things like this. So that bill's passed. I was not happy with it. I introduced it again. It came to the House. The Democratic Party was pushing for it more than I did. It went unanimous in the House. It went up on the consent agenda in the Senate. But in the last night, they never called it, so it died. So now it was brought back up again. But at this date, as we speak, May 14, 2021, I am urging all manufacturers and business people, not only manufacturers, haircutters too, because they could do the same thing, to call their legislators and tell them the two bills, they have to bring them back to reality, to life. There is time. There's still time. I tell you the bill numbers too. One of them is House Bill 6435. People should write it down. There's still time.
Got it.
And Senate Bill 933. Both of those bills, let me repeat them, House Bill 6435 and Senate Bill 933, they still can bring them back in the last day of session and bring them back to life.
And the idea being here that apprenticeship tax credits would be applied the same to a C Corp as a pass-through entity. Listen, but let's go back to the bigger question, Selim, which is how are we going to get people engaged and want to be in apprenticeship programs? How are we going to get more people to want to get engaged in manufacturing careers? Because listen, the credits are great. It's an important thing. I'm glad we talked about it. But what we need is we got to fill this talent pipeline. We need more people interested in those careers. What are we going to do to change that dynamic?
Parental guidance. Parental guidance and parental influence is very important. There are people who always say, when a kid is 5 years old, let's see, where are you going to go to college? You have to include the parents and the families to say that today's manufacturing facility is not your grandfather's dungeon. Today's manufacturing facility is all computerized, very clean, very safe. If you go to Noujaim Tool Company, you do not see one drop of oil on the floor because everything is self-contained. We don't even use oil. We just use liquid to ease in manufacturing process, and it's all self-contained. As a matter of fact, the wire EDM operation is nothing but rinse water.
That's right.
The water comes into the machine, goes back, recycles, re-cleans itself, and come back into the machine. And that's how. But parents don't understand that manufacturing can pay.
Manufacturing.
And they have to understand that. And look, there are companies I know, I shouldn't say companies I know, there's a company I know very well that pays for a family $2,700 a month for health insurance.
Right.
Health insurance alone. There is out there is a need. And the need has to be fulfilled by parents who will say to a son or to a daughter, there's nothing wrong with you becoming a tool maker. There are tool makers who are making six figures. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know something? It's funny. I want to tell you this story. Back in September 2017, the Lebanese government puts in a program all over the world called LDE, the Lebanese Diaspora Energy. I was invited to be a keynote speaker. And the place had 825 people, came from all over the world, all Lebanese American, all Lebanese Australian, Lebanese New Zealander, Lebanese Puerto Rican.
From all over the world, right?
From all over the world.
Yep.
825, the most successful people. I was invited to be a keynote speaker. Right in the front seat was the president of one of the universities in Lebanon. He was sitting right next to the minister, the foreign minister. I'm speaking, and I started talking about VOTEC education because that was my topic.
Sure.
Same thing I'm talking to you now. And all of a sudden, the president of the university stood up. He has big, huge eyebrows, and he's a big guy, kind of stood up, and he gave me a dirty look. I came off my speech, my script, and I said, Mr. President, I have lots of respect for you. I know you well. But it seems to me that you do not agree with my assessment. And he said, why wouldn't you want to send them to colleges and universities? And then he sat down. I said, Mr. President, let me answer you. Do you know a vocational technical school in Connecticut called Deir al-Amr Vocational Technical School? Yeah, I know it very well. I said, this is the school that graduated my brother Joe. He came to this country. Please come visit us. We built an empire. And we built the empire based on his expertise. I could have gone. I went to college. I couldn't have done what my brother Joe did. My brother Joe is the guy whom I go to him. And I ask him stupid questions. And he teaches me, even to now. But that's how it is. He has his talent. I have my talent. My nephew George has his talent. And our people have their talent. I always say, the most important person at Noujaim Tool Company is our janitor, because housekeeping is the most important aspect of running a business. If you have dirty place, it means that you have dirty quality. Because if you don't take pride in the cleanliness of your environment, you won't take pride of the products that you make. And that's what I always say. Whenever somebody comes in to Noujaim Tool Company, I introduce them to the janitor first and foremost. I do, honestly.
Got to take pride in everything you do. And it's clear that you take pride as well. And I think you're 100% right. We've got to get the parents to know that it's okay to go for a trade. And I'll say this too, by the way, the manufacturing of 2021 and the manufacturing of 2025 and 2030 is going to be more than just tool making. It's going to be more than just CNC and lathe machines. It's going to also include data analytics. It's going to include sales and marketing. It's going to, right? There's so much to be done there that I think it's just so important to get out there. Because to me, we have the infrastructure, we have the pedigree, we have the background. What we really need is an engaged population to know what is possible if they open their eyes to modern manufacturing. And it will be the difference between success and failure going forward.
Sure. And quite honestly, we don't hide our tool makers. Many times we receive a print and the print has missing dimensions, or the print is really not done correctly by an engineer. And if you produce it according to what the engineer wants, they won't be able to use it into the assembly process. So what we do is I call the tool maker to my office, and I will set up the tool maker to speak with the engineer from the company and say, you tell him what you think. And they do, and they talk to each other. And many people thank us for allowing our professional people, I call them professional people.
They are, absolutely.
To be able to interface with the customers. And we do.
You got to do it. Listen, let me ask you, we're going to rapid fire questions in a second. We're going to wrap it up. But I want to ask you a question. We've talked a lot about workforce. Clearly you invest time and energy, into workforce. When you think about the other aspects of investing in the business, keeping up with the technology, you got to keep the things clean. How do you think about that relative to your workforce investments? Like when are you thinking about bringing in new technology and retraining people? How do you keep ahead of that curve?
Well, we're always looking. We're always looking to see what's out in the marketplace. There are always expositions, and there are always new machinery and equipment that come through. And we look at their websites, we see what they have, we see what they offer, and we always, if you come to Noujaim Tool Company, you see equipment turning over and over again. There are no equipment that's been sitting there for 30, 40 years. As a matter of fact, in our wire ADM operation, the oldest machine we have is 7 years old. And the only reason for which it has survived that long is because it does things that other in capacity that other equipment cannot do. And we have one specific customer in Rhode Island who comes to us basically for this one specific machine because they have a product that no other machine around their area can do capacity-wise. So, and it's a beauty.
That is
so
a beauty.
It's beautiful. But you know something?
But hold on. It's a really important point because I think that, an underlying theme that's come up in our conversation, is constantly focusing on the future in workforce development, in staying in touch with your customers, in finding new equipment and new technology, in looking ahead. Seems to me that's a pivotal cornerstone of the success that you guys have had and are continuing to have.
If you do not invest and reinvest, you will be totally gone.
That's right.
And look, in my teaching, I say two things, okay? I always say two things, okay? 50% of what I know today, any person, any of us here, 50% of what I know today will be obsolete in 5 years. When I go to seminars and I teach, that's what I say. One of this. I say it all the time.
Got to keep learning then, right?
Keep learning
or you're going to be
all the time.
Left behind.
You will become a dinosaur.
Absolutely.
If you do not learn, you become a dinosaur.
And we know what happened to the dinosaur. Certainly my son does. He talks about it all the time. All right. Are you ready for rapid fire round of questions to wrap this up?
You are the interviewer. I'm the interviewee.
You're ready.
You're the boss.
All right. Here we go. Quick questions. Red Sox or Yankees?
Oh, no. Red Sox.
There we go. Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Oh, Dunkin' Donuts, definitely.
Staycation or exotic destination?
Oh, exotic destination. We like to go places.
Good way to be.
And then and last year we've been cooped. you know that.
You're ready to go.
Yes.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Sports car?
As a matter of fact,
yeah.
If I have my choices, I'll have a flip phone like Star Trek.
Sports car or SUV?
Oh, I have a beautiful SUV. Love it. Shakers in Watertown.
There you go.
It's a Lincoln Nautilus, the newest model.
You love it.
Love it.
There you go. Do you have a favorite business book?
Yes. Well, actually, the one that I really read and I liked a lot was Jack Welch's book.
Oh.
It's been a few years, but anyway. But probably if you ask me what is the most favorite book in my life that I love, I would say Charlotte's Web.
I
do.
I love it.
I do.
Well, if you could do anything other than what you're doing right now, Selim, and it had to be something different, what would you do?
I would answer that question in a different way if this was 7 o'clock in the morning. If this was 7 a.m. right now, I would be running my 4 miles.
Be a runner? That's what you do?
Yes.
There you go. What's something, Selim, that you learned early in your life or early in your career that you think helped propel you to all the success that you've had?
Be true to your God, true to yourself, and true to your family.
There you go. It's beautiful. What's something that you learned later in your career or later in your life, Selim, that if you could go back and tell young Selim and he'd listen to you, that it'd make a really positive impact on his life?
Sometimes old Selim is a little too stubborn.
Be a little less stubborn. Learn new stuff. Selim, it has been a pleasure having you on and hearing your story. It's such a great tale of success, true immigrant story, somebody that's learned to be successful and give back. It's really been a pleasure getting to know you, have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Well, honestly, I am truly honored to be here. You have a beautiful operation. You have wonderful people. When I was waiting for you, and you were late, by the way, coming to talk to me, I was chatting with them and talking to them, and I was enjoying myself. As a matter of fact, I was about to be interviewed by them, which would have been okay.
Might have actually been better.
Because there would be a smarter interviewer, you know.
Probably. That's exactly right.
But you know something? You came to the SMA dinner this past Monday night. I was blown away by your presentation. You are a remarkable man. You know, you got hit physically, the Lord decided, but I think because you were hit physically and the Lord allowed it, probably that made you a better man. You probably would not have been the same type of person that you are now that you could have been if you were not. Sometimes the Lord has different way of doing things that makes me cry. Look, I have a daughter, my daughter Bridget. When she was in college at Iona College in New Rochelle, she was diagnosed with an illness called myasthenia gravis, and you know something, they told her not to go back for her senior year. She was stubborn physically and mentally. She went back for her senior year, and graduated cum laude. 3 days after graduation, she got a job on Madison Avenue in New York in publishing. That was her career. And 2 years later, her eyes closed and she couldn't do it anymore. So she asked me if I could come down to New York and pick her up. I drove down and I came around so she doesn't have to cross the street. She came out of the building and her eyes were closed. If I had my pistol with me, I would put my pistol in my head and shot myself. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And you know something? Life gives you challenges, and sometimes how you advance them. Because of her illness, my daughter Bridget now is a coach for people who are newly diagnosed with myasthenia gravis. She can't drive, but she does volunteer work, and she raises more money than you can imagine for charities in our greater Waterbury area. She's an asset to our community.
That's
now,
right.
if she was fully healthy, she would probably be in some corner office in Manhattan, and you probably see her only once, in a long time. But now, we live together, and she contributes to our community in more ways that you can imagine. But if you would allow me a couple more minutes, I'll tell you a story.
Take it.
And if I become too emotional, please don't judge me. 4 years ago, I was hit by a car. I was in a coma. I knew nothing whatsoever. All the people who came to see me in the hospital, I don't remember anybody, including high-level political people in Connecticut, and including outside people who came from other countries to visit. Didn't remember anybody, don't know anybody. So several months later, and thank God I survived it, several months later, I am walking in the hall of St. Mary's Hospital, and I see a lady coming across. She identified herself, and she said to me, "I walked you." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, my aide and I walked you. We held you and we walked you." We said to you, "Where do you want to walk?" I said, you responded, "I want to see all four corners of the floor, and I want to look out of every window." Why do you want to look out of every window? Because I want to see all sides of my Waterbury, because Waterbury has been good to me.
That's a great story, Selim.
Waterbury has been good to me. I came to this country, I could not speak a word of English. And thank God the Lord has blessed me, has blessed my family. What more do I want?
It's all we can really ever ask for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. Thank you so much for everything that you do for the community, for all the great stories that you've shared. It's really been a pleasure.
Well, thank you too. Even with how the Lord, you see your life in an optimistic fashion. And you and I have a lot in common, quite honestly. We were both hit physically, and our families did too. But we make the best out of it, and we look in life optimistically, and we say that we have a second chance to make an impact.
Absolutely.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too. Thanks, Selim.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by IT Direct.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a community where we can learn and grow together. Your input, feedback, and engagement is critical to making that happen. Please do comment, like, and subscribe so more and more people can hear what we're doing and join our community of growth and success. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk to you again soon.